Really
Fingers
nice
crossed.
to be with you today. I work at Learning Disability Wales. We're a Wales-wide charity, and our work is to make Wales the best country in the world for people with a learning disability to be born, to live, love and work. And so we work with people with a learning disability, but we don't represent their voice as such. We work with parents and carers, as well as many organisations that provide services and commission services to provide support to people with a learning disability. So I'm here today to talk about effective communication. We've heard quite a bit today about communication and the importance of it. Well, why is it important, do we see in this field of health? Well, we know that people with a learning disability have a reduced life expectancy than the general population. For men, it's about 14 years. For women, it's about 18 years. And so there's a great health inequality, and that's due to a variety of reasons. One of them is sort of comorbidities. People with a learning disability are more likely to have other health conditions that might be life-limiting. We also know there is something called diagnostic overshadowing, where somebody's learning disability is seen as the cause for something else, where actually there's an underlying condition there that isn't recognised. And we also know that there's some socioeconomic and social determinants, like, you know, a lack of friendships or relationships and isolation can lead to health conditions. And another thing is that communication there are communication issues, and often health professionals aren't the best communicators that they could be. Now, that can happen in a variety of health settings. Think of hospitals and GPs, and an organisation called the Paul Ridd Foundation is doing some fantastic work about those sorts of communications and health pathways with care pathways in hospitals. So Google Paul Ridd Foundation, they're amazing, cannot recommend them enough. So I'm here to talk today more about what we've been looking at today with information for patients about medicines. So I'm going to, with some trepidation, share my slides. And if I cut out from my voice, then I'm going to be really worried, and I will just turn it off and speak with you seeing my face all the time. So what gets in the way of people's communication? Are you still hearing my voice?
We are, yes.
Brilliant. That's wonderful. Lovely. The tech is working. So what gets in the way for people? What are the barriers when people are given information that they need to understand about, you know, really vital things? You take the medicine wrong or don't take it in your medicine, it can cause serious issues for people. We recognize that. So what gets in the way? Well, one of the problems is that we rely on writing. For many people with a learning disability, they may not be able to read at all. Some can be very good readers, a very diverse population, and some people can read, but they may need some support, or they may have some problems with it. So reliance on writing can be a problem, and there's so many other ways to communicate information these days that are cheap and easy, like making small videos or audio files as well. And you know, that patient information line sounds brilliant, where someone can talk through things with you. So that's really wonderful thing to do, you know, that human touch, that conversation, the Q&A. But there is still a case for written information. And when we do look at written information, some of the problems are that the words and language used are quite difficult, and that things are designed quite poorly. We've already heard about that from those leaflets inside the packets of medicine, where the writing is just so small, it's very difficult to see. So design is an issue as well. So what are the issues that an individual is dealing with when they've got these patient information leaflets, medicine leaflets, any sort of written information? Well, it's the same as what you and I are doing. Oh, sorry, I've gone ahead of myself. One of the other problems with getting in the way is access to that stuff in the first place. Sometimes those that are around the person with a learning disability may be the gatekeepers to that information. Oh, they don't need to know that, I can do it for them. They won't understand that, so they're not given the information, and that's very disempowering and taking the person out of making decisions and control in their life. But it's also about how that information is made available to somebody. You know, is it on the internet? Well, if you'll find using the internet or computers difficult, then that can be a problem as well. So what are the issues that people are dealing with? So I'm going to look at 6 key skills. Whenever I am reading, you are reading, a person with a learning disability is reading, you're using lots of different skills at the same time. One of them, the first one, is reading. It's your literacy. How well can you read? But it's not just literacy that we're thinking about here. We're also using the skill of understanding complicated ideas or abstract ideas. So there's that understanding of the words you're reading as well. And sometimes you can find with people is that it's sometimes called the cloak of confidence, is that they sound like a confident reader, but that's masking that they can read, but they're not only understanding what they are reading. That can be an issue. So we need to think of it's not only about reading, it's also about understanding what you're reading. The other thing is that people can have problems with concentrating, and you're having to concentrate on me now. When you're reading, you're having to concentrate, and some people with a learning disability might have problems with that concentration, and there may be barriers in the way of that. Also, memory. Let's say the patient leaflet says something at the very top of page 1. Well, if you can't remember it at the bottom of page 2, then that's going to cause you a problem with using that information. Or it may be remembering what the doctor or the nurse has said to them previously, and they may need to know that to understand the patient leaflet. So memory issues are a problem as well, and we need to recognize that. Another thing is cross-referencing information, taking information from one area or one part of a document or leaflet and using it in another area. Cross-referencing information can be a brake on your concentration or stress your concentration, and you have to remember where you left off to get back to it. So cross-referencing can be an issue as well for some people. And seeing, actually being able to read the words, see the pictures and those things as well. So sort of call this the skills burden. All of us are doing it, and learning disabled people are doing it as well. They're using all these skills at once. If you have a particular issue with one or more of these, then that's going to be more tiring and more straining and reduce your ability to use your other skills. It's like keeping 6 plates spinning at the same time. You're not aware you're doing it individually, but all these things are going on, and it can be a burden where there are barriers in the way. So what can we do about some of these things? How can we make things better for people? One of the ways, and we deal with this a lot, is use easier words. I've got some very basic examples here, but you can swap out often more complicated words for easier words and language. So words and language, making that simpler and easier, more plain language is very important. Another thing that we can do is take long leaflets or long documents and section them up, split them up. So give lots of easy chunks to that information. So it's less likely to be overwhelmed by a lot of information, or people can focus on just the bits of information they need or are relevant to them at that moment. Also, explanations, where you do need to use a difficult word, explain what it means. And we do that a lot in our Easy Read service, which I'll talk about in a minute, where we might use a complicated word and then we, like here, we give a definition of what that complicated word might mean. Another thing that we can do is better design. Font size, spacing, line spacing is very important, and consistent layout and things like that. And also what's really important is using pictures. We use pictures a lot to help understanding. It can also support reading, it can support memory and support concentration. So the inclusion of lots of pictures to support all those skills that people are trying to use is really important as well. And the other thing is better access, like making sure that the information is actually available to people in a format, in a time, in a place and a setting which they have a chance of getting hold of it. And less gatekeeping of information by often well-meaning care and support people, but really to include people as much as they can in that sort of information about the medicines that they are taking, and so people can feel some genuine ownership and knowledge of the medications that they are taking. going to cut you. I'm not going to, Karen Jones is going to talk about tramadol leaflet in a minute. I'm not going to steal your thunder, but here is an example of a piece of easy read work that we've produced recently, and Karen is going to talk about this. But you can see here the pages are very different to what you might recognize as normal medicine information leaflets. There's lots of space, lots of pictures to support the writing, short sentences. So that's one of the things that we do here at Learning Disability Wales. My colleague Laura Griffiths is here today, who's the manager of our Easy Read service, where we help organisations in producing documents in Easy Read, which is a term we use to describe a document which is written and designed specifically for people with a learning disability to have a better way to read and understand. But what we also find is that when we produce something in Easy Read, it's not just learning disabled people who benefit from it. Lots of other people can benefit from information being presented in this way, whether English or Welsh be your second language, or if you have mental health problems or dementia, or just don't have a degree in medicine or pharmacology. These can really be helpful for people. So there's a lot there I've just thrown at you. I'm here, if we've got time, really willing to take some questions, and hopefully Claire will be able to share my contact details with everybody afterwards, and I'm more than happy to carry on some conversations outside of this meeting and refer you on to other people where needed. So thank you for your time, everyone.